This is My Kind of Weird, a podcast where two people swap and pitch three kinds of media. Something watchable, something readable, and something listenable to see if each other says at the end of the pod, that's my kind of weird. I'm your host, Anthony Pollock, and joining me today is comic book creator and artist who decided, I don't just like boobs, I'm going to decide how to draw them. Ahmed Raafat.
Hi, everyone. That's one hell of an introduction.
Ahmed, are you ready to get weird with me?
Yes.
Fantastic. Now, present your something watchable.
I recommended the Brand New Cherry Flavour to you, which is a show on Netflix that came out last year. And I can't wait to hear what you think of it.
You said you could hurt someone for me. What did he do to you?
This world is predators and prey.
You took the only thing I care about.
Say what you want.
And I want to set his life on fire.
Oh man, it's just, it's very arty, isn't it? It's very arty, it's very dark, it's very what the fuck, isn't it? It's very, I mean, to give people an idea, it has zombies, it has cats being birthed out of mouths, it has, I mean, at one point there's the main character, she is getting fisted in her cat vagina, I think is the best way to put it.
I think that's the scene that a lot of people quit watching the show after that scene. So if you made it through that one, the rest of the show is pretty easy.
Oh man, I did not know what to say about it. It's it's beyond Doctor Who levels of weird. It's very just bizarre. It's strange to sort of come from America, I feel.
Yeah.
It felt more like a Canadian thing. I mean, there were some Canadian actors in there, so I guess that's something, but yeah, it was just very bizarre. I mean, it had Rosa Salazar in it, which she's always a treat to watch.
She was brilliant, in that one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the description of it. Some people call it, say it has Cronenbergian
It does.
vignettes in it. Some people say it's Lynchian.
It's got the body horror element of Cronenberg films in it. It reminded me a bit of Mulholland Drive by Lynch. So it's, it's Hollywood, and things get super weird, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, I came across this show on Netflix. I didn't know anything about it. I just saw the name and the small snippet. You know, the snippet they play when you're browsing and you click on a show. The bit that I saw kind of reminded me of Mandy. The visuals.
Okay.
And there was this dream sequence that had a lot of red in it, and it was very trippy, and it kind of reminded me of Mandy, which I absolutely love. And I decided to start watching it, and it's definitely delivered.
It's a strange revenge tale. For our listeners who haven't checked it out, it's about a filmmaker that heads to Hollywood, and it's set in the 90s, and there's lots of hallucinations ensue. There's sex, there's magic, there's revenge, there's cats, it basically, her film gets stolen from her under like a convoluted contract situation, and then just she basically hires a witch who may or may not be possessed by a demon, and all sorts of. It's
the same actress from Get Out, and now I know if she the actress who's playing the witch. I can't remember the name. Catherine Keen, I think.
Keener.
Yeah. So I now I know that if she's in a film or a TV show, then trouble is going to happen to the other characters. I'd run in the other direction if I saw it in real life now. If anyone enjoys 90s Hollywood revenge tales with a little bit of, with a significant amount of body horror and David Lynch kind of weird, then this is the kind of show for you. And again, top-notch performances from everyone. It keeps you guessing where it's going. It took some very interesting and weird twists, so it doesn't get boring. And it's on Netflix, so the most famous streaming platform in the world.
So everyone can check it out. So my something weird is Raised by Wolves.
Yes.
Our enemies built an ark, which is now headed here. The only known planet where humans can survive.
And should the Mithraik's ark ever make it here, you will not listen to their words. They believe that allowing androids to raise human children is a sin.
We must rescue our stolen children.
Do not tell them what I am.
Which is an American sci-fi drama created by Aaron Guzikowski, or Guzikowski, however it's pronounced, and was the first two. We're going to talk about season 1 because season 2 is sort of in the midst of being.
Yeah, we didn't get season 2
released
here in the UK because we don't have HBO Max, but there is a local streaming service that kind of get the HBO Max stuff. Depending on how trending it is, we either get it like straight away. We got the Zack Snyder's Justice League in the same week as the US. If it's not as big, we get it kind of a month or 2 months later. So I watched season 1. Season 2 is not out yet. And I really enjoyed that. Like I said, the story is, without giving away too much, there's war on Earth and 2 androids are sent to another planet, Kepler B22, where they're supposed to start new life without war, without anything. They have some embryos with them that they're supposed to make babies out of, and I don't know how to put it in another way, and raise over there in a new place without any war, without anything, but things do not go as planned. Basically. I think I was tweeting a few weeks ago about how I haven't come across anything that is like serious science fiction, the kind of stuff that we used to get in the 90s in any recent times. I came across the show when it first came out, but I thought it's just going to be one of these sci-fi adventures, YA sci-fi adventures, which I have nothing against, but it's not really my kind of thing. Like Divergent and these kind of films and shows. But then when you recommended it, I started watching it, and it's not like that at all. It is very serious. It is very philosophical. Ridley Scott is the executive producer, and I think he directed a few episodes as well. And I can see his fingerprints all over the show. There's a bit of Alien there. The android design, the white liquid that's inside, that's very much Alien.
Oh yeah,
and I think there's a bit of Blade Runner there as well. In terms of Blade Runner was very philosophical in how the replicants address their creation and their creator, and all the questions, all the pondering that they were doing about life and all that. And there is a bit of that there. How the androids perceive humanity and human life, and how they evolve as the show progresses from just being androids into more than that. The only thing that left me a little bit confused, and I'm not going to go into spoilers, the last episode came out of left field. I was not expecting the last episode to be like that.
Yeah.
At all. It was going in a steady direction, and there are twists. It's not boring. Things happen, but you can kind of see the logic of where they're going. But yeah, the last episode was just like, we're going in a completely different direction now.
Yeah. Well, I think they kind of realised that they jumped the shark a bit with that last episode. I won't spoil what happens because even if I did, it wouldn't make any sense. It wouldn't make any sense for anyone
watching the show from the beginning. Like, if we told them what happens in an episode, then they're going to be like, yeah, right. All
right. I can say that there is no sign of the thing that we're talking about, at least in the first couple of episodes of season 2. So I think they've kind of just been like, we're not sure if that holds any relevancy to what we were doing in the first place. So I kind of feel like they weren't too sure if it was going to get renewed with with what happens at the end.
I mean, I expected a little bit of closure in the last episode, because with these shows, you kind of have to wrap up the arc that you're doing in the season and leave a little bit of room in case it gets renewed, especially when it's not something that is like based on an established book series or comic book series or something. But with the last episode, I feel like they've left the door wide open. We have a lot of things to offer in the second season that might not happen or might not. But I'm glad that the second season is happening, because I'd like to know what happens next.
Yeah, I'd say that anyone who's looking, who sort of misses or just feels like they've had enough of Star Trek, Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica, and all those sort of those kind of more friendly sort of science fiction, although Battlestar Galactica isn't as friendly, but they're looking for more sort of bleak sci-fi.
It's got a very 60s science fiction quality to it as well. First of all, the designs are very retro, which I absolutely love. Even the androids, there's a bit of Metropolis in there, without going into too much detail. Do not spoil it to anyone. The ships and the helmets that they're wearing in the beginning, that looked very 60s, Twilight Zone, or the Day the Earth Stood Still kind of design, which is I absolutely love. This got me hooked from the beginning, before even knowing anything about the show itself. But yeah, it's not action adventure. It's not YA. It's not. It's very philosophical. It's a slow burn. There are some episodes that are quite slow in pace, but it just kind of lets you digest all the questions that the show has to offer.
There are points where it feels a bit cold, and I feel because the two androids that are trying to raise the children, a couple of the children die, and then there's it's kind of the androids and one of the, and this isn't a spoiler really, because it's it all happens in episode 1, so it's not really.
I thought that the whole show was going to be about raising the children, and when 5 of them died in the first episode, I was like, where are we going with this? What's going to happen next? We can't have a whole show about raising one kid in the middle of nowhere, basically.
It even feels a bit sterile in places, which I don't really mind, because it gives room for the concept to breathe and for the concept to not feel sort of overtaken by the usual sort of shenanigans and bullshit that goes on with parenthood and that type of stuff. I also got a bit of predestination stuff in there as well, in terms of the religious humans that are left versus the atheist humans that are left. Also, Vikings fans, Travis Fimmel is in it as well. So that's, for me, that is a favourite recent actor of mine. So he's definitely one reason to check it out as well. But there's just a lot of cool stuff in here. It does feel very retro, but it also feels so in depth that when I first started watching it, I expected, where's the text for this? and lo and behold, there is no text. It's a completely original show.
I thought it's based on a book or something. Mine first went to like Philip K. Dick or something like that, because the whole religion, the fact that there is a new religion in the show, and it's that atheist versus religion, it sounded like a very 60s idea of science fiction. But I couldn't find anything it's based on, which is a miracle these days to come up with something that is not based on anything existing at all.
I mean, it was compared to Ridley Scott's Prometheus because it is so cold and dark, and which is great because he directs the first 2 episodes.
Yeah, so, and I kind of feel that he was more involved in the development than that, because at least from a design point of view, because there are bits and pieces of his previous work. There were a couple of scenes that felt very Blade Runner to me. Especially with the scenes with the creator had a bit of a Blade Runner vibe.
Well, I believe he's an ongoing producer.
Yeah,
and it feels to me like, because it is so high, that's another thing. When after you finish the first couple of episodes, you just think to yourself, how the fuck did this get greenlit? And I feel like him saying, okay, I'll direct the first 2 episodes is how it got greenlit, because, it's hard to argue with that. I mean, it's Ridley Scott.
Yeah. But it's also, I'm not expecting it to be a very high budget show, because it's set on a desert planet and in this small compound. Aside from a couple of shots that involve war and spaceships and all that, most of the show is set in a very small contained location, which is great, because I mean, if you can make such a show on a smaller budget, then that's a plus. That's not a bad thing. And the cast really sells the show. The performances from everyone is brilliant. All
right, present your something readable.
My something readable was X-Statix versus the Avengers to you. X-Statix is the series by Peter Milligan and Mike Oretz. Am I saying the name right? Yes. And I've presented this specific arc for those who are not familiar with X-Statix. It's started as X-Force, and then it was like an X-Men offshoot, and then became a series called X-Statix, and it's kind of a deconstruction of superheroes and mutants, but not in a Watchmen bleak kind of way, in a more of a parody, really. These group of it's a group of mutants, but they're not hated by society. Instead, they're being loved. They're stars. They get invited to premieres. They're on TV shows. They care more about their social status than they do about actually saving the world. So, and it is this arc specifically, the one that I recommended. If you've read it, there is a bit in it that was one of the early inspirations to make Astro-Nudes. I'll let you guess which part it is. But yeah, I mean, what did you think of it?
I mean, X-Statix to me feels like it's doing to X-Men sort of what Doom Patrol, in a way, did to Justice League. You know what I mean? It's that kind of, but in its own way. It just kind of felt very satirical, sort of.
It is, definitely.
Yeah. I just find that art hard to digest in large. Like, I don't feel like I can read this entire run in an afternoon. You know what I mean? I don't feel just because the I don't know. It's something about the art. I can't quite put my finger on it. It's just not the sort of the art style I prefer, I think, possibly.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, which is a shame for me because I like most of the characters, especially Dead Girl.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think actually Dead Girl is probably the most interesting character out of the bunch. I don't know what it is. It's something about the art that just kind of throws me a little bit. That like I could read like 3 issues in a row and be fine, but I don't know what it is. It's something about the art.
I mean, I like Mike Orritt's art, but I understand it's not very conventional when it comes, especially when it comes to a superhero book or a Marvel book. It's very much its own thing. So I can see where you're coming from.
It might also be part of the storyline as well. There are parts in the run where you just kind of, where is this going? I feel like they were trying to do something different with it when it came out. It came out in the early 2000s, right?
Yeah.
It felt like one of those books where they were trying to do something new and different and appeal to a sort of a younger audience. And that could be part of why I don't like it.
You prefer something a little bit more classic?
No, it's not really that at all. I think I just have to accept that, there's comics out there not for me.
Yeah.
At the same time,
clearly,
yeah. Which is, I'm just perplexed as to why I don't like it as much as other people like it. When I read a lot of grittier and strange comic books and graphic novels, so yeah, I don't know what it is. It could also be, I think I get a little bit impatient when writers spend too much time meandering around the issues of the characters and not enough time getting to the point. So, and there is a bit of that going on, which is kind of funny because once you're done with your pitch, the series I'm about to pitch there's lots of meandering around. So, bit hypocritical, but I don't know what else to say. Except that my something readable is Generation X. Which is a comic book that spends a lot of time meandering around with the bullshit of teenagers. So
that sent me down a nostalgia trip. I've read Generation X, but I have read Generation X when I was 12, which is 26 years ago.
Yeah.
And the way I used to read it is I was living in Egypt at the time, and we used to get the UK X-Men comics for some reason. And if you know how in the UK they sell the US releases, and then they have their own magazine kind of version of Marvel and DC, and it kind of compiles several series together. So like the one I used to get had the X-Men main series and also Generation X all in one big magazine, and it used to print in magazine size. It didn't print in the normal standard comic book size. And the series is written by Scott Lobdell and illustrated by Chris Bacalo. At least in the beginning, I think there were a couple of other. Or is it Chris Bacalo or Bacalo? I'm not sure. I've totally butchered the name.
I don't think he's a listener, so I don't know. I'm sure we'll get away with it.
Yeah. I think there were a couple of guest artists along the line, but he was the one drawing the main part of the series, and it's about Generation X, again an offshoot X-Men team led by Banshee and Emma Frost, the White Queen, and it is very. I think again, it felt like it was geared towards a younger audience. It's very 90s in terms of dialogue and slang being used and all that. But in my case, because I've read this in the past, and I really used to love the art on this series when I was a kid, and still do. Obviously, Chris is amazing. But I used to copy a lot of it when I was younger, and
right.
and reading it in the past week, it's just like brought back a lot of memories. Like, yeah, I copied this panel, or I copied this face, or I copied this building, or I remember this looked very cool and I want to draw something similar. It's just it's amazing how memory works. And I flip the page, and before I look at it, I can tell what's there. Even though if you asked me before reading it, like a day before reading it, if I remember anything about it, I would have said no. I don't remember anything. I've read it 26 years ago or 27 years ago, and that I can't remember anything about it. But now it's just it was a very, aside from the series itself, reading it again, it was a very weird experience to me. It's just getting flashes of memory and childhood and all that. Well, yeah, I mean, the series itself, it's the story is very basic. It's just the team coming together, and there's a villain. They fight a couple of villains. There's a main one, Implate. They come across some mysterious mutants that get thrown at their doorstep by Gateway, and they try to find out where this mutant came from and what their story. So it's
Penance.
Yes, Penance. Yeah. The story's fine. It's entertaining, but it could get a bit wordy at times. There were some panels that were loaded with conversation and narration that didn't really need to be there, because the art was explained everything. But the art is amazing. I mean, I was mind blown by it when I was a kid, and reading it again, I'm still mind blown by it. I think this was it's got the same 90s style, but it's much softer. It doesn't have as much feathering or hatching as this. That was the popular style at the time. Jim Lee and Liefeld and McFarlane were all like doing heavy hatching in their work. This one doesn't have that as much, but it's still dynamic in the same way 90s art was. Colors are amazing. I mean, it was. I loved looking back at the art again last week, and I'd definitely recommend it for the art alone. I mean, just if anyone doesn't like where the story is going or is not enjoying the story, just look at the art. Just flip through the pages and look at the art, because it's amazing.
So I have a couple of points to make about to reinforce my pitch for this series. So firstly, at one point, Generation X was more popular than all the other X books. That's one point to make. Another point to make is some of the biggest arcs in 90s X-Men storylines, Generation X were involved as sort of like a side story that ran alongside these main types of arcs. And I found that a lot of them, the storyline was better than the main arcs. Phalanx Covenant was one that comes to mind. There's also Operation Zero Tolerance is another one where you have like Bastion, who is basically the human slash Nimrod Sentinel sort of cyborg.
Yeah.
And a lot of that sort of arc is the backstory to that is that Jubilee, who's one of Generation X, is being held captive. So those are good points. There's also, it's a great series to go back and look at because I did some reading and some research about it in preparation for this, and a lot of the art and the style and the stories was meant to reflect sort of the cynicism and complexity of the earlier series, of the earlier X-Men books, but also to give it more of a modern take. So there's a lot of sort of 90s grunge influences to it.
Yeah, it is very much 90s, but a bit different from other stuff that was out there at the time. Which, I mean, again, looking at it, this must have been revolutionary at the time because now you can get a lot of different styles in books. I think now Marvel and DC are pretty are much more loose with the kind of art styles. It doesn't have to be a specific house style across all the books. But back then, I think there was a very dominant style that everyone was trying to draw in, and this has hints of that. But it is much softer. The faces are much more expressive. So it felt like a step forward from everything else that was going on there back then.
I feel like it's also a good example of what a big comic book company, or even just what a comic book company can do in terms of expanding the universe. I mean, really, when it starts, the only sort of familiarities that you have, obviously Banshee, like you said, obviously the White Queen, like you said. But even then, she hadn't really been as elaborated on or expanded upon in the entire pantheon of X-Men yet, with the exception of, a couple of the Hellfire, skirmishes that the X-Men have had. And then there was, there was Jubilee, which was great. She was a fan favorite if you're watching the cartoon. And then they had Husk, aka Paige Guthrie, who was very sort of a loose familiarity because she's like the younger sister of Cannonball. But apart from that, you had I think 5 or 6 other characters that they completely had to come up with. You spent a lot of time fleshing out and carrying the rest of the story.
Yeah, the relations between the different characters was it doesn't feel forced. It feels like they are a group of mutants who are brought together not because they're friends or because they know each other. They're just brought together because they're mutants, and there is friction between all of them, and there are misunderstandings, and they're not getting along all the time. But still, when in a situation where they have to work together as a team, they overcome that, and they do that together. And Chamber is one of the coolest character designs.
Oh yeah,
ever.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I just love the concept of Chamber. Yeah. The fact that he's so powerful that he blew his own mouth off, and then has to wrap it around just so he doesn't look, so he can pass himself off as human, just so he doesn't look so alien. But and just the whole. I don't think they've really played around with the evolution of telepaths to that extreme. I mean, they have in terms of mind control and telekinesis and stuff, but not from the fact that he's so his energy within him is so powerful that I don't think he really needs to eat or drink or anything like that. He's just pure energy inside, and his body is really just its skin, really. So I thought that was really interesting as well. And then he also had the sort of punk rock kind of look vibe to him as well.
He is British, so kind of makes sense. I suppose it's the punk rock is the very very much the British cool. I wouldn't say stereotype, cliche, maybe, but yeah, I mean they
back then.
Yeah. And I just remembered there was because you were saying it was more popular than X-Men. There was a Generation X movie that was made back in the 90s.
So that was meant to be a TV show.
Yeah,
that was actually a pilot, which they repackaged as a movie because it got cancelled.
Yeah. I haven't watched it. I heard it's not great, but I remember seeing the ads for it at the time, and I was because back then in the 90s there was only Batman. Really, there was nothing else. It was cool for a kid my age back then to see other superheroes, ones that he's reading about at the moment, getting a TV show or a movie or something. But I never got a chance to watch it back then, and it kind of fell off my radar. But since I've been reading this past week, might look for it now.
Good luck. I don't think it's easy to find. Okay, so present your something listenable.
So I recommended to you a YouTube channel that I've been listening to while working, called Wendigoon, and I've specifically recommended an episode about an analog horror ARG. Those who are not familiar with the term, it's an alternate reality game called Local 58.
Okay.
I've been and you have recommended to me the Nocturnes. I cannot pronounce the name of the album.
Look, I could say that I can, but I'm probably bullshitting you. I'm assuming it's Aoki Gahara. That's the best I can come up with. It's by Emma. Well, it's Emma Ruth Rundle's first band. So, singer-songwriter from Oregon, I believe, in America.
Okay. For some reason, I thought they're British. I don't know why my mind went there, but I think it's because it's the music reminded me of another band which I think are British. They're called London Grammar, if you've heard of them. I assume they are.
No, I don't think I have, but I'll definitely check them out.
It's got the same chill kind of vibe. The music is very... I imagine I would play this music and just like sit down and relax. The Nocturnes and London Grammar. Or play the music while driving at night, in an empty... motorway or something. It's very chill. It's very relaxing. That one of the songs had a hint of Britpop to it. I think it's was there a song called The Game?
The Road?
Yes.
Or was it The Cradle?
I can't remember now. But yeah, there was a small hint. It's not Britpop. It's not Oasis or anything. But there was a small hint of that in one of the songs. But it's I like the stuff of London Grammar. I've never heard about the Nocturnes before. You told me about them. I enjoy the album. It's something to play and wind down at the end of the day. And I plan to check out their... You said that this was her first band. Does this mean that this band is not there anymore? I tried to...
Yeah, that's right. So I believe they had 3 releases. I think this was either the first or the second one. And since then, Emma Ruth Rundle, she's done a whole bunch of different, I guess, alternative music, or alternative rock is probably the closest career to say she's had, because she's been in. I came across her because I'm a big fan of this post-rock group called Red Sparrows.
Okay.
And whenever I like a band, like I'll like really get into it and want more, and there's only 2-3 albums, I'll then dive into the band members to see if they
have been doing anything else.
Yeah, and then it becomes this snowball effect, and that's how I consume my music. I don't really read music magazines anymore. That's how I find new work.
Yeah, I kind of do the same with not with music specifically, other things. When you find something you like and you decide to look up the history of every person involved to see if there is something else that they're doing. But yeah, I'll definitely check that out. Could use that kind of relaxing music while working, while expressing about perspective and all the stuff that an artist stresses about.
At risk of being honest, I listen to Aoki Gahara when I can't sleep. I have a brain that's just constantly working, even when I should be sleeping, and it's really frustrating. So I find that I need something to relax me to, and this is one of those albums that helps me sleep.
Yeah, I have the same problem as well, and what I've been trying to do, because I usually am working 9 to 5 and then drawing from 6 or 7 until I need to stop drawing and go to bed, because otherwise the next day is wrecked, basically. So I found that when I stop working and go to bed immediately, I never sleep. I'm always, my mind's still working. The cogs inside are still working, thinking about something. So what I do is stop an hour before and do something relaxing. Sit and watch something silly on TV, which is how I started watching all these shows that I've been watching recently. Listen to something relaxing, read a little bit, just do something that doesn't require much brain activity. Otherwise, I'll just be sitting in bed for another hour or two, thinking about anything, the weirdest things. So yeah, I have the same problem. I know what you're going through.
So let's do the verdicts then. So, Ahmed, of all the choices of mine, are any of those you're kind of weird?
Raised by Wolves is definitely my kind of weird. Generation X by virtue of nostalgia. I mean, I already like a lot of it, so it's definitely in that my kind of weird as well. And the Nocturnes, I enjoyed that. I'll definitely go and look up the rest of the discography, especially that it's a small one, and keep listening. Thank you for the recommendations. I've enjoyed all of them.
That's right, and your watchable and readable are definitely my kind of weird as well.
It's great. And I'm sorry about Brand New Cherry Flavour, the shock and the trauma that resulted from that. When you said weird, that's the first thing that flashed in my mind, and I need to make him watch this show.
Yeah, I think when my kid is old enough, and I'm thinking like 15, I'm going to put it on, and just that, the cat vagina scene, and just put his reaction on the internet somehow. I think that would make a good TikTok video.
You're giving me ideas now. One of my kids is 12, so nearly there. 3 years to go.
You're there. You'll beat me to it. Me to it. All right, everyone, we're going to go to a quick note from our sponsors, and then we'll be right back to talk about Diary of the Astro-Nudes.
Rabbits aren't real. That's part of a news story that's sure to break any time now, on any news channel, in any city, in any country. But seriously, think about it, my brethren. When was the last time you saw a rabbit? Or, more to the point, when was the last time you saw a disemboweled rabbit splayed with its entrails sticking out on an operating table for all to see? No? Been a while, hasn't it? The government will have you believe something else. But believe me when I tell you this. The rabbits aren't real. They aren't really there. They've never been there. And when they are merely underground drones communicating through a complicated sonic relay system that only the government has access to. The rabbits aren't real. They are underground. Their sonic sensors are penetrating your homes, your work, your schools, your government agencies. What do they want? Who do they work for? One thing is for sure, What? Oh no. Oh God, no. I think they found me. Please, pass this message on before it's too late. The rabbits aren't real. The rabbits aren't...
All right, Ahmed, so tell us about Diary of the Astro-Nudes. I've been keeping up to date on the posts you've done over the last sort of 2 years, I think.
Yeah.
2 or 3 years. And now it's finally coming to fruition on Zoop in the form of, what, one volume or one comic?
It is one comic. It's 32 pages, so it is slightly bigger than the normal comic, but it's not a volume, as in like 40 or 60 pages. And I started this in 2019 as a parody. Basically, I was doing a parody of like Strange Tales, 60s Marvel Strange Tales covers, where there's this spaceship and some monsters coming out, and people are shocked and scared. And instead of the monster, it was as I like to call them, two interdimensional travelers that come from a planet, a parallel Earth, where clothes don't exist. And that's the shocking part. And I posted online. I wasn't really sure how people would react, because a lot of my followers are from Egypt by virtue of me being from there, and nudity is not as accepted as it is in other places of the world. So I wasn't sure if people are gonna like hate it and berate me over it, or are they going to be okay with it? And the reaction was quite positive. People were asking if this is part of something bigger, or is it just a one-off? I didn't have any plans at the time beyond that. But then over time, I started getting more ideas for illustrations, and then it evolved from that into single-page stories or two-page stories. I had never written a comic book script before in my life. I was always working with others. I'd never tried writing anything. I never thought I'd be able to write anything. And yeah, the stories just kept getting longer, and I started adding lore to the characters, where they came from, how the whole thing came to be, and yeah, once I've had kind of a season, I look at them as seasons because they're like short. Each of them is a short story or a vignette, so it kind of feels like a sitcom for me, at least. So once I wrapped up that part, I put it together in a print edition, because it's the way it's done. It's done in the style of a 50s comic with or the 60s from that period, with all the dot printing and the worn out pages. So I think this would look very cool in print, even much cooler than it looks online. And we have launched yesterday. Was it the last 2 days? Felt like eternity. So yeah, it was yesterday. we launched yesterday on Zoop, crowdfunding. We have just crossed our funding goal, so I can relax a little bit, but it's still there for the next 29 days for anyone who wants to order it. Got a couple of stretch goals planned along the way. So yeah, more exciting stuff coming.
Now, despite the nudity, it's not erotica, is it? It's more just two explorers that just happen to be naked.
Yeah, it's not at all. It's a lot of it is inspired by nudist philosophy, obviously, and also there's a genre of films that was very famous in the 60s called nudist camp films. Diary of a Nudist is the most famous of them, which is where the name comes from. Diary of the Astro-Nudes. It's a homage to that. And these films were made to promote nudism, but it was all very utopian, wholesome kind of setting. There was nothing erotic, nothing tongue in cheek. It was all done with a straight face, and there was something very wholesome about the way it's presented, and this is the kind of mood I was trying to go for with the book. So I wasn't trying to do anything wink wink or any of that. I was just you could easily take the characters out and put two aliens, and they would react kind of in the same way. The only difference is that these characters are humans from a parallel Earth, and they just don't know the concept of clothes.
I'm just sitting here hoping that you are wearing clothes while we're having this conversation.
I'm not gonna say. I'm not gonna say how much I'm dressed or how much I'm not.
Isn't
it?
Yeah. You think that you see in the news all the time. It's body positivity this, body positivity that, which is it's good. In terms of moving people forward with being comfortable, but you think maybe that might have a bit of a effect with how it's been received?
I hope it does. Actually, because the way I draw the characters is very simplified. I got a couple of comments from people reading saying, "Why don't you try to include more diverse body types?" And I wasn't not including them by choice. It's just that I drew the characters this way, and I carried on with the series, and I decided to keep the look the same. But I did. In one of the stories, I kind of break the fourth wall and say that the body shape changed a little bit. I added more detail to it, and then I said it's just that the artist is lazy and doesn't draw all the details all the time. But in general, I'm hoping that people who read it kind of look at nudity in a different perspective. It doesn't have to be sexual. It doesn't have to be erotica. It can just exist out of the context that mainstream has told us that it exists in, and that is changing with what you said about body positivity. A lot of the advertising campaigns these days feature nudity that is not sexual or erotic or anything. It's meant to more inspire body positivity and body confidence. So in general, hopefully it kind of works with the general mood of what's going on these days in terms of body positivity and desexualizing nudity.
So it's inspired by the 60s and 50s sort of era in terms. I got this feeling like it when you first started releasing pages, I guess 2 years ago, or at least when I first started seeing them, was it felt like a comic strip, which is funny, play on words there, comic strip, nudity. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, do you think if you release this in the 60s, it would pass the comics code?
Probably. To be fair, I rarely show. Well, I mean, we do show some stuff, but no, I don't think so. because I have two segments of readers. There are the comic readers who know my work and know me from other things like Gorilla My Dreams stuff, that started reading this. And then there are the nudist readers who are reading this because it's a comic that kind of addresses these themes in a more general term. I don't mention nudism by name anywhere, but it kind of it's the same philosophy and the same ideologies. And I get the complaint all the time that I'm not showing any full frontal, and am I? Why am I not doing this?
You got people approaching you saying, "Show us the dicks."
Yes, yeah, a couple of times, pretty much. But it's not like
the audacity.
It's more of are you ashamed of showing it? You know, it's
right.
but I try. Yeah, but the reason I was doing that is that I was trying to kind of keep it more accessible to everyone, because not everyone might go as I was going to say might go as hard, but I realized that's a pun. Might go as hard on the comic if it was just like full frontal in every single page, and the films from that time were doing that as well. But I'm not sure if it's to avoid a certain code or was it just to make them more friendly, I guess. They were very careful in showing full frontals and with carefully strategically placed objects and angles to make sure that none of that is shown. So I was kind of playing on this idea as a visual gag. But no, I don't think it would pass with not with what is being on display in in the pages.
All right, where do you go to from here with the Astro-Nudes?
In my mind, I have 2 more arcs planned. I haven't put down the details yet. I've started writing. So I want to do another arc on this Earth where they are, with more mishaps, misadventures, but also at the same time, the whole premise is that they are fixing their ship so that they would be able to go back to their Earth. So they will eventually fix the ship in the second part, and then I want to do a whole issue or arc where it's set on their planet, so kind of reverse of what I've been doing in the first issue. So we take the hosts from Earth and put them on the planet of the Astro-Nudes and see how they would act to the inverse of the situation. So that's that's the plan so far. I've started writing the second issue. I've written the first short story, but then the campaign came along, and I was just all my energy and time were in preparing everything. I didn't think putting together a crowdfunding campaign would be as difficult.
Well, when we live in a world where Jeff Bezos literally created a phallus for a space shuttle, I feel like you've got plenty of room for satire and art inspiration out there.
Yeah.
All right, where can people find you online?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram as the Ahmed Raafat, my name. On both, there's a link tree with my portfolio and websites for Gorilla My Dreams, and El Osba, my Egyptian comic book, and Astro-Nudes, and I just keep it updated with everything that is relevant. And we are currently crowdfunding on Zoop. We've launched yesterday, 29 days to go. The first issue of Astro-Nudes in print with stuff that has not been published online. There's a prologue that has not been published online that kind of explains where they came from and ties the story together. We've got prints. We've got more stretch goals coming up. So if anyone finds the premise interesting and doesn't mind a bit of nudity in their comics and would like to support us, that would be great.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much for appearing on the show. It's been lots of fun. For those who like this episode, by all means, share it around. Go check out Ahmed's, I was going to say Kickstarter campaign, but Zoop campaign.
Yeah, it is Zoop.
Which is good because Zoop does sound like something 50s or 60s. It sounds like a space shuttle or some kind of Viagra from the 60s, so really appropriate. Folks, for now, I'm going to leave you all with the sound of a horse being fed through a distortion pedal. Thanks, guys. Stay weird.